Hey there, Lon, it's Mower, and today we are back talking about the August 23rd Battle for Azeroth question and answer session with none other than your main man, Ion Hazzikostas, lead game, god of all gaming or whatever. I can't remember what his title is, but anyway, as you'll hopefully have seen this by now, you'll understand that I think this was probably one of the best, the most interesting, most informative ones. I think, obviously after an expansion comes out, there's a lot to talk about. But, really, a lot of the stuff that could have been talked about, we already knew. So instead of what I normally do, where I kind of just talk about amorphous subjects that came up during the Q&A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer every question myself. And hopefully with that answer, I'll give kind of a summary of things. But before we start, as you've seen in the title of this video, the main theme today, I think the thing that everybody had on their mind today was scaling, quote unquote. And I just want to touch on this real quick because this is a real problem with the World of Warcraft community. They use these really, really general terms to describe things that they either like or dislike, most commonly dislike, and scaling is one of them. But they don't, it's not a word you can use this way. You cannot be specific. It's far too specific, okay, to use such general terms that need to be far more precise, okay? So when you hear people talk about scaling, and this is not the case in the actual Q&A, the questions were well written. First of all, I'd like to say you really should watch the Q&A. If you're just gonna, if you're just gonna read what I have here on Wowhead, this is not it's not a great summary, I have to say. They do good stuff, but this is not a great summary. The things he says in that Q&A, there's a lot of nuance that you need to hear yourself. So I definitely recommend watching it. But anyway, the important thing here is that you're specific when we're talking about scaling. And the questions were, 95% satisfactory on that regard with the specificity of scaling. But when you see people talk about it on the forums and elsewhere, it's like they don't really understand what they're talking about, yet they hate it. And that really... There's not a lot of things that get me really upset. But that gets me really upset. And it's not just WoW. It's not just World of Warcraft. It's not just video games. Anything. Anytime somebody is grossly confused on a topic that they are saying is inadequate to their interests, I have absolutely... It's not even a lack of respect for them. It kind of dips over past the lack of respect. Because you're insulting something that somebody else spent... potentially hundreds of hours working on, and you don't even have you can't even take the time to learn about it, to insult it properly. It's really frustrating, and you see this a lot in the forums, and I want people to understand this. So I think what we're seeing here is an amalgamation of three separate things, all being talked about as scaling. So when you hear people say, oh, scaling sucks, scaling blah, 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 BFA is ruined, whatever the nonsense is being spewed. What they're actually talking about is, number one, the fact that when you gear up, or when you level up, you lose stats. So this was talked about in the actual Q&A, so we'll talk about it more at that point. But that's not new, okay? That itself branches off to two separate discussions with this, GCD thing. People keep saying, oh, GCD, classes are so slow. That's another misconception. It has nothing to do with the GCD changes at all. The global cooldown was not increased. It's only affecting abilities with a long cooldown, so you could literally not use them and still play as fast as before. But instead, what they're exhibiting is the secondary stat changes, right? Where, you have much less haste. It's going to be a long road to climb. But regardless, back to the original topic of losing power as we gain, we gain levels. People are complaining about that. And the problem is this has always happened. And furthermore, it's the first time it's ever, we were ever in an expansion where we had 200 plus item levels gained the last time. That's a really big deal. We'll talk about that in a bit. The second thing that they're always talking about with scaling is actual PvP scaling. Now with war mode out in the world, people from 110 to 120 are supposed to be able to fight each other. They're complaining about 110s or 115s or whatever being able to kill 120s, having some kind of advantage, right? So again, they're confused on this because they just don't understand it. These people have gear that was very, very, very powerful and a part of Legion. You don't have the very, very, very powerful gear in BFA yet. So this problem solves itself. Regardless also was changed. Okay, big hot fix. You want to look into that. And then the third thing they're always talking about here is now this hot button topic where world content is scaling with your item level, and that's one that obviously a lot of people brought up in this. This is the first question that we're going to read out here. That was the major focus of this. So really, there's some things to actually understand about this. You know, the scaling we're going to talk about in this video, but for like a vast majority of the people talking about this, they don't even understand what they're talking about. They're putting all of these things together into one pot, and you cannot. They're very, very different problems and very different situations. Okay, so you know, whatever was said about the PvE scaling out in the world, I think this is what really made this the best Q&A for me. So let's just get right into it. But first of all, they started talking about class stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna go briefly. They said class stuff isn't over. All right, effectively, I mean, who should be surprised by that? I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. Class stuff is not over. And they said that the week after Heroic opens, so that's the first week of September, they're going to start thinking about tuning, like serious tuning passes. So just keep an eye on that. You know, maybe Vengeance Demon Hunter gets nerfed. I don't know. I don't think Blood DK is going to get any changes, but we'll see. So anyway, first question. Now, again, these are summaries of the question, which I wish they didn't do this, but I can't be asked going through all the videos. Anyway, so any plans on curbing back the PvE world mob scaling? So that's the first question. The answer, I can't answer this as Ion Hazzikostas, right? But I'm going to answer this as hey there, guys, it's Metro, okay? No, all right? Because it's not actually that big of a fucking deal. You guys are making way too big of a deal out of this. It's not actually affecting you as much as you guys are saying it is. And I don't know exactly what's happening here. I guess some kind of Reddit I saw this Reddit post with all these people like circle jerking over it. But again, no facts, no numbers in the post, no screenshots. Show me a screenshot of the DPS meter and the mob's health. Show me it at 300 item level, 315, 330, and 340 something. You know what I mean? Whatever you can get to. You're going to kill the mob faster. It's not a fucking opinion. I don't know what game you guys are playing. I don't know. If you're killing mobs the same speed you were killing them when you were sub 300 at 340, you're bad at the game. I can't help you. Neither can Ian. He can't help you. It's not true. Okay? Just because the mob gains some health does not mean that it takes longer to kill it as you go up. And this is what these people are saying. You know, again, the question here is specific enough to not be problematic, but the people on the forums are like going nuts. It's like, oh, we don't gain power. We lose power. No, you don't. You're combining 3 different topics that don't make any relevant combination. It doesn't work. You gain power when you get new gear. If you don't feel that, you're not getting gear. I don't know what to tell you. And the thing that really bothers me is, here's a great one. He says, from when you hit max level and start getting into mythics, okay? He said mythics, and there's people who are like, lol, out of touch, idiot director, game director. Nobody does like so few people do mythics. He's talking about fucking dungeons. He's talking about 340 gear. You can't get 340 gear, then just quit. Quit the game. I'm telling you, if you cannot go from 300 to 340 in 3 weeks, I don't know what you're doing. And furthermore, if you can't, you have no reason to complain. You have no reason to say, I am not getting commensurately powerful when you're not even trying. You're literally not trying. This gear falls out of the sky. You can easily be over-geared for this point in the expansion. But very important, he brings up the fact that the world also gives better gear. So you can't just have mobs that are tuned for 250 item level. And he brings up the thing about how old expansions, you know, as soon as you hit 110, whatever max level is, you went back to old zones, you crush mobs because they're 5-6 levels lower than you are. That's not in the game anymore. So you need to have this. It's not an option. So any plans of curbing back PvE? No. Get gear. Okay, moving on. What are your thoughts on leveling? I feel weaker when leveling. That's intended. Next question. You know, I don't know what to tell you. That's what happens. You lose power. But the real problem, the real thing that people are actually, you're probably noticing and reacting to, you're gaining so much power every expansion now. From Legion, we went from, what was it? 800 item level was like good gear coming out of Legion launch. We almost got, people were getting to 985 5 item level. Almost 200 item levels. There was 1,000 item level items in the game. Legendaries that had dramatic power gains attached to them. You went 200 item levels last expansion. Now you're back at the beginning of another 200 item level curve. What do you think is going to happen, dude? What are your thoughts on leveling? It's working as intended. This is what has to happen. There's no other choice here. You can't just one-shot the mobs. At the first week, you can't. A week, what was this, 9 days into the expansion? What do you want? I don't know. I just don't know. Leveling scaling has odd consequences. Such as so again, level scaling has odd consequences. People mixing up 2 different topics here. Okay, this is not related to level scaling. This is not the same topic, but it's being demonstrated, it's being displayed in a way that's making people get all confused. They think they're talking about the previous topic, I feel weaker when leveling. They think that means level scaling. That's not what is being discussed in this comment. And I'm really disappointed that they summarized this question like this, because this is not the question that was asked. Such as 110s, blah, blah, blah. 110s killing 120s. So they were definitely strong. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Lower level characters with heirlooms, or not with legendaries and like full power from the previous raid, were stronger than 120s. Not by a ton. They wouldn't one-shot them or something like that, but it was hard. It was hard to kill a very serious twinked out character. Just like twinks have always been clear. But anyway, regardless, that reason is because they're wearing gear at the end of a 200 item level curve. And you are not. You're wearing gear at the start of a 200. Do you even have 3 points in your Azerite traits? Very, very unlikely. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what did you expect to happen? You know, I'm talking to Blizzard. I don't know. Did you expect these people who are wearing extremely powerful gear and are now scaled up to effective 120 health? They're going to be able to just die? It doesn't really make any sense. So they nerfed it, and I'm glad. But yeah, I think that was, I don't know. I would like to see this extend across the entire game. I would like to see level 1s be able to fight level 120s. If you have war mode in the game, you should be actually encouraging people to fight each other. And if you can one-shot somebody, I don't care what level they are, it's not good. But obviously, a 120 is going to have a huge advantage over a level 1. Level 1 has 2 spells. That's the advantage. You don't need anything more. You know what I mean? If people want to twink at level 1 and put crazy enchants and make them super strong, why are we limiting that? Who cares? You can get more powerful too. So can they. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, what is the design philosophy behind item level increasing so rapidly from the start of an expansion? Should we expect? So this is not one that's relevant to me. I definitely can't answer this. But, you know, if I had to say it, it was like, he summarized it pretty well. If you're going to have Mythic Plus, Titan Forging, Azerite gear, 4 raids, whatever, 3+ raids throughout the course of the expansion, 200 item levels is the option. That's it. That's all there is. You're not really going to be able to go, what was it used to be, 50 item levels in TBC? It's not really an option. So that's the design philosophy. If we want to have long expansions with Titan Forging and many gearing options, we have to increase by 10 to 15 item levels of every difficulty. Do you feel that the removal of auto accept and searching for groups by add-ons was worthwhile? Yes, I wholeheartedly do, because it stops exactly what he described. People just pressing in a button and having somebody complete a world quest for them. It's the worst thing in the game. It makes makes world content feel absolutely trivial. You don't put any effort into doing it, and you don't put any effort into the learning or talking to the people that you're playing with. Now it's much longer. There's a lot of world quests. Would have been really useful to have that stuff, but those add-ons were ruining world quests, man. They were ruining the world of Warcraft. That's a very important part of this video game. If you disagree, maybe it's time to find a new game. If you want to be able to click a button and have 4 people that you're not even going to speak, not even type a single letter, not even a single letter to, complete a world quest for you, might be time for another game. This is an MMORPG, very different than what you might be wanting there. Are there plans to fix the auction house and guild bank features for high pop realms? So that's funny. This has actually gotten a lot better for Fire Tree, of course, much smaller realm than some of these realms. I don't actually know what it's like on there, but I've heard guild banks especially are just horrid. And I don't really know what's going on there, but I'm going to read this out instead of answering myself, because I can't, obviously I don't have the knowledge. Their technology has improved over the years, and they have more people on each realm than ever before. The auction house system is falling behind. So basically what they're saying is, probably like the code that generates the auction house situation is weak. So in terms of like fixing it, what they're going to do is obviously strengthen that situation. But they're also going to be making it so people can't spam like 400 single ore up on the auction house. Apparently that's causing a big part of it. And people are already overreacting to that. They're like, lol, lazy fix, but it's actually a pretty big problem. So yeah, that's a great change if you ask me. I can't, other than making the server infrastructure and the technology there stronger, there's not really much else you can do. Are you going to put guild permissions back to how they were pre-communities? Another one just doesn't really apply. I can't really answer it, but people have been saying, I've seen people say that, whatever some of the problems were with the guild situation, they've been fixed, maybe hot fix. I don't know. I don't know anything about this. This doesn't apply to me or my guild, but they talked about some pretty useful ideas in the actual Q&A, so I'd recommend checking that out. This was actually interesting. Why did they change this at all? It's because they basically recreated what guilds were. They didn't use the old guild stuff. So it's not like they got rid of stuff on purpose. It's just they didn't make it in the new system, and that can be changed. So that's great. Are there plans to expand on the communities feature to make them usable for larger communities? I think the communities feature is very weak right now. I don't feel like anybody's getting great use out of it, and I think the UI is quite clunky. So I hope that they will put more time into making this better, because as of right now, I don't feel very interested in it. I've yet to join a single community. I don't know of anybody who really cares for it. And even I started my own community, and there's like 10 people in it. So yeah, I guess it's not going to be great. Island expeditions seem to be very unrewarding. Do you have something wrong with you? I'm not really sure. Any chance of having their rewards improved? No, because they're very rewarding. It's the next question. Like, where are these coming from? Who thinks they're unrewarding? We had this conversation on stream the other day. It's like, do you guys actually play this video game? You know that they give 300 AP for like 11 or maybe like 15 minutes of effort, and you could just do them all day, every day? Where else are you gonna, like, what? It's not a question. It's not an opinion. You know what I mean? But apparently there was some problems, so that was fixed. But yeah, the 40k Azerite weekly, 2.5k gained, and then rep as well. They're not like, I mean, if you're doing that and then stopping and saying that's unrewarding, if you were being specific on after you get the big gain, the big 40k gained Azerite for the massive weekly, then it's unrewarding. Then yeah, I mean, I guess I could understand it. It could be more rewarding, like we were talking about in stream the other night. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it maybe 400 AP. But it's like, we're going to overgear the shit. I'm talking about destroy these. People are already doing them in like sub 10 minutes. And we're 340, right? When we're, how about 400? What's going to be, what are they going to be like? They're going to get deleted. And you're just going to be getting fed Azerite. It's not an opinion. They're, without question, the best renewable source of AP farming in the game. So no, they don't need to have their rewards improved. You guys need to get better at the video game. Will there be any change to Azerite gear and it being untradeable? That's great. I'm really glad. If you haven't seen it, they said that they're going to make Azerite gear tradable. Now, we're talking about this. People are like, oh, I don't like that Azerite gear is in Titanforge. Had some strong opinions on this. But at the same breath, people were like, also, well, I don't like, that you can't trade it. And I was like, well, I don't think you should trade it, because you should want to keep it. If it's good for anybody, it's good for you too. You should want to have one of every one. And then somebody's like, well, I already have one of this one. I was like, oh yeah, fuck. Like, you can't do anything with that one. You know what I mean? There's no reason to have two of the same one. So I'm glad that they're changing it. I would have been fine if they didn't change it, but it's better. I am worried now about split clearing, because this goes from the one piece of gear that you couldn't trade to now the best gear to trade, because you'll always have the item. There's no Titan forging, right? Where with a sick trinket, you might get like a 5 item level higher trinket and you won't be able to trade it. But that doesn't work with Azerite gear. If you're doing heroic raids, you're always going to get the exact same Azerite gear. So that's, I don't know. I'm worried about trading there. But regardless, it's good for me, because like for what I do, yeah, that would be great for us. What else? Explain the catch-up mechanic with artifact power. No. Go do research. Go read Wowhead. Like, why do you answer these questions? Can somebody tell me this? What are you talking about? This is very, very, very well documented. Why is this being answered by the fucking game, like the lead game guy? The guy who makes the video game? Well, why is he taking time to answer this? This has been answered like 150 times in the last 2 weeks. So no, you can go look that up yourself. Any plans to increase the rewards for war mode? I don't know why they would need to be increased, honestly. People are getting like insane amounts of materials each day from the bounty. People are getting, the caches are dropping all the time. It's actually a great system. I think it's a solid system right now, and I don't think it needs to be any increase. What I would like to see, 5% more experience. Back to 15. On the beta, it was 15% experience. Now it's only 10. I think 5% more experience would be better, because right now you get ganked while you're leveling. It's just, even if it doesn't add that much time to leveling, it's really frustrating. So it's not fun. No matter how much extra experience, I think it should be back to 15. So that would be my answer to that. War mode on RP realms. Are you phased with other servers? I'm an adult, so I don't RP, so I have no idea. When deciding on the gearing systems for PvP, why did you choose a fixed reward schedule? Because it's what you asked for. Were you guys here in Legion? Everybody fucking complained about random gear, right? And then were you here in WoD when everybody was complaining about the vendor? Oh, you have to get the weapon first. This is what you have to do. You have to do this. And he actually explains this very well. These are things that were direct complaints in the last 5 years, and now it's in the game, and people are asking questions about why. Because you asked for it. Your predecessor, whoever was concerned about this 5 years ago, hated vendors, so he made random gear. Now they hate random gear. Now they're worried about fixed reward. I don't know. So anyway, I don't PvP, don't really care. Are there plans to allow targeting of specific high item level Azerite pieces? They're already in the game. Go look in the dungeon journal. Some dungeons feel like they have too many trash mobs. Are there plans to reduce them? No, get better at the video game. How do you plan on keeping World Crest relevant once reputations have capped? No reason to do that. Same thing, exact same thing we did in Legion. Worked out pretty well there, wouldn't you say? I guess the problem is no BLP though. That was one thing that really kept them relevant through the entire expansion was BLP. One of the best ways to get BLP, that bad luck protection for those of you guys who are new. Bad luck protection was extremely important for legendary access. But yeah, I mean, you're always going to get AP from these. So they're always going to be relevant. One of the best sources of AP. Update on new Worgen and Goblin models. No. Horde aren't getting honor-bound rep for the wanted quest in Cultiris. Is this intended? This was an odd one. I did not know this. I did not know that Alliance... I gotta turn the light on. I did not know that Alliance were getting rep with 7th Legion or 9th Legion or 4th Legion, whatever it's called. I did not know that, and that's kind of fucked up. So, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. Especially if it's like a Horde bias thing. But anyway. Okay, emissary rewards are different between factions. Why? Because they're not the same emissary. Because it's random is what he says. Good answer, Ian. Is there a reason for the overwhelming amount of quests in the latest zones? Yes, they give experience. Why is a more quest a bad thing? Why do people insist on these quests being filler instead of just I don't have to do them if I don't want to? And the without question most important thing that happened in this entire Q&A. Obviously the scaling thing was a big deal. This was the most important question in the entire Q&A. And I feel like it was only read on stream because they wanted to tease this shit. So we're going tinfoil hat here, boys. Put it on. We're going to get desertion from our faction. I am almost certain. After reading and listening to what he said on this, will we see the social impact of the faction war on other races of Azeroth? And it was brought up about Pandaren, how Pandaren are on both sides of the faction war. Well, really, the better question is, do the Tauren feel like they're at home in the Horde right now? Probably not. So what's going to happen? If you play a Tauren, maybe you could go to the Alliance. I think this is probably one of the best ideas that could happen in the game. I think this kind of stems into a further problem for me, but I think this like faction, not even just faction, obviously, class and race combination thing is getting out of control. The fact that allied races cannot be Death Knights, like, fuck you, honestly. Like, who cares? Death Knights have been in the game longer than the previous lore that established them existed, okay? They've been in the video game longer than people have had Death Knights for over 10 years now. If that Death Knight is not accomplished enough to teach other people how to be Death Knights without the Lich King, I mean, come on, you can't make story for that? So this is a different problem for me. This is not actually what's being asked. But regardless, it's kind of the same situation. If you're a Tauren and you're a priest and you go to the priest order hall in Legion, and you see a human priest next to you, and you wave at them, and you think, I'd like to play with them, but I can't. I think there needs to be a way. There needs to be some kind of choice. Now, if it was up to me, it would be a choice that you could come back from. I don't think it's going to be up to me. I don't think it's going to be a choice that you can come back from. I have a feeling you're paying for a faction transfer, that's it. Maybe there'll be some kind of involved quest one way. But if you go one way for free, you got to pay for faction transfer to come back. There's no, I want to go back to the Horde now kind of thing, you know? Or maybe it would be even more severe. You'd have to make the choice at birth, at level 1, whatever, level 20. If you're new High Mountain, whatever. So, I don't know. I think that was, I can't stress that enough. Go watch the Q&A. The fact that they answered this question, it was like, this is not a question that needed to be answered on stream. And I think Laura even said that. He was like, blah, blah, blah. It was like, this is not a very important question, but we're going to answer it anyway. And then Ian says, yeah, definitely. Both the Alliance and Horde are comprised with different races, and this conflict means something different to each of them. So what could that possibly mean? I think it has to mean, unless they have some big story thing change. They might have some big story thing in the works. But when the question was first asked, I was immediately thinking, yeah, I wonder how, the Fulborgs or whatever, the Foulborgs, or however you say them. I don't know. I'm not from Green Bay. How they react to it. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking, different factions, the Burning Legion. They're a different faction. But the fact that the wording faction was involved makes me think they were going to have some kind of cross-faction desertion or collusion or something. But anyway, that's it. So let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like I said, the scaling thing has gotten way out of control. I've been playing since the day it came out. I played every single day for at least 4, if not closer to 12 hours. The days that I don't have to work, I played 12 plus hours a day. My character is getting steadily stronger, okay? It's not factual to say otherwise, okay? I understand that people think that it's affecting the RPG elements of the game and that it feels like, I don't know, whatever. But it is wrong if you are 340 to say that you would be stronger if you were 300. It's not true, okay? And again, that's combining the level thing. People are thinking about this because of leveling. They were 110 and they were one-shotting these mobs, and now they're 120 and they're dying to them. This is not related to the other problem. They are not the same problem. Do you understand? These two things are not related. They sound like they're related because they're both talking about scaling, but they are not related. And again, the same thing with PvP. Oh, well, you're just, at 110, you're just way more powerful than a 120. False. You just have gear that is very useful for world PvP, and Blizzard put in a system where you would be able to balance each other out. 120 attacks on 110, they do less damage. 110 attacks on 120, they have less health, etc. This is a Blizzard contrived system, and they can tune it as they can. It's not scaling. You know what I mean? This is not this kind of stepwise upward directional scale. It's not happening. These three things are not connected, okay? If you're going to talk about them, please talk about them separately and be as specific as possible, because otherwise it makes a lot of really frustrating posts. Let's put it that way. Anyway, thanks for watching. Very interesting Q&A. I think this is probably my favorite Q&A that they've ever done, especially with this little tease at the end here. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll be live, and hope you're enjoying Battle for Azeroth as much as I am.